Hello and welcome to another video. And today we're going to be making a 2024 election prediction between Mike Pence and Stacey Abrams. And I do think that it's going to be Stacey Abrams is a pretty obvious choice to be a candidate for the Democrats in 2024. I do think that it's 100%. She's 100% going to run in 2024. It's when you look at how she acts and what she tries to do to further her political career, you could kind of see how she's trying to get to tries to get to the presidency. She's trying to put herself in a position where she's going to be presumed as a Democratic nominee. So I do think that she's going to run in 2024. She's going to first of all try really, really hard to become the vice presidential candidate for Joe Biden, and I don't think that's going to happen. But say it does, and then Joe Biden loses, and then she'd obviously be the candidate who everybody's looking towards. She'd have a massive advantage. So I'm going to be takes into account the fact that there's going to be a lot of party fatigue since Donald Trump will have served for 2 terms. And that's not going to be good for Republicans. I think that 2024 is going to be a good year for Democrats. Honestly, I find it really hard to find a candidate who's going to actually win, a Republican candidate who's actually going to win in 2024. You could see possibly I don't know, Nikki Haley winning. She could win against a candidate like Gavin Newsom or Joe Kennedy or something like that. But then Stacey Abrams would just probably win against Nikki Haley. So I'm just going to fill out all these states that I think are safe for her and for him. Yeah, I think that's it. So now I'm going to fill out the likely states, starting off with Mississippi, Missouri, and South Carolina. These 3 states have high African American populations, and in 2008 and 2012, these were likely states, and actually Missouri was a tilt state for the Republicans in 2008 because Barack Obama was the nominee. You could see similar things happening in 2024 when there's an even higher African American population and you have an African American woman running. I think that would energize many voters in Missouri, Mississippi, and South Carolina. It won't be enough to flip the states, but it will be pretty good for her. We have Colorado and Nevada. They have pretty high Latino populations. And it's not unrealistic because Colorado and Nevada were actually likely states in 2008, and I'm pretty sure also in 2012. So they could possibly go to Stacey Abrams by 5 to 15%, maybe 10 to 12%, something like that. I think that Montana will be a likely state. I think that Stacey Abrams will be able to get the Native American vote to come out, and I think that will be enough to narrow the margins in Montana like Obama did in 2008. I don't think that they're the same type of candidate. I think that Obama was a pretty good candidate for the Democrats to use for the Democrats. I don't think he was the best one. I think Hillary Clinton would have done pretty well against John McCain, probably 400 electoral votes, and then she'd do really well in 2012 as well. But Obama was also pretty good at getting out basically all minorities. He did really well with Native American voters, which is why Montana was actually a swing state. Same with North and South Dakota. So now I'm going to go to Michigan. I think this one will go to Stacey Abrams. You're going to have many voters who are going to switch to the Democrats because of party fatigue. If Donald Trump wins in 2020, it's going to be because he at least carried one or two Rust Belt states. And I think that those Rust Belt states will turn on the Republicans once he's out of office. Mike Pence is not the same type of Republican as Donald Trump, and I doubt Donald Trump would win the Rust Belt if he ran for a third term, which he can't. So I'm just going to give all of the Rust Belt to Stacey Abrams. I think it will probably flip almost regardless of who the candidate is, just because of the party fatigue. I do think that maybe you could have Wisconsin as a tilt and Pennsylvania, but really that's it. She could, she does pretty well with suburban voters, especially in Atlanta, around the Atlanta suburbs around here. I think she'll be able to narrowly take the state against Mike Pence. I think that if she almost won the governorship, she lost by like 1 or 2 points or something like that, then she's on track to basically take the state in 6 years after that, because 6 years after 2018, the African American population in Georgia will be so large that any African American who has like the African American appeal will be able to take the state, like Stacey Abrams. She'll have increased voter turnout in Atlanta and in places like Athens. So I do think that the state will narrowly go to Stacey Abrams. The same thing with North Carolina. Everything that is set for Georgia really applies for North Carolina. Virginia will basically be a safe state by 2028 or 2032. But I'm just going to still classify it as a likely state for this matchup. And I'm going to go with Maine at large going to Stacey Abrams by a likely margin. I think that Mike Pence would narrowly be able to take the 2nd congressional district. I do think that he'll be able to get some northeastern voters, not as much as Stacey Abrams. If she were to run for re-election, she wouldn't get many of those northeastern states by margins that she got in 2024, just because of all of the party fatigue. You'll have many voters switching to the Democrats, like Republicans switched from the Democratic Party to the like you had many voters switching from the Barack Obama to Donald Trump. I think the same thing will happen here, but I do think that Iowa will be a likely state for Mike Pence. I think that it will eventually become a safe Republican state. You'll have many of the rural voters coming out to vote for Republicans. It will probably become a safe state in the next 10 to 20 years. It will become one of those Kansas or Wyoming states. But I do think it will be a likely state for Mike Pence. You could have Ohio narrowly going to Mike Pence. It's a pretty good state for Republicans. I don't see them losing it for a long time, but you do have Stacey Abrams. She will be able to appeal to many of the African American voters in Cleveland and Cincinnati. So you'll have increased voter turnout in those areas, but I don't think it's enough. I'm going to characterize New Hampshire as a lean Democratic state. If Donald Trump wasn't able to win the state in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, then I don't really think that I don't really see a chance for Republicans to take the state. I don't think that Mike Pence's more establishment type profile would help him in New Hampshire. I don't think he'd be able to get the voters out in the state. So I'd give it to Stacey Abrams. Then we have Nebraska 2nd Congressional District. I'm going to give that to Mike Pence. I don't really think she'd be able to make inroads in Nebraska. I don't think that's her type of, I don't think she'd be able to do that. It's not her type of thing. I think Mike Pence would hold many conservative states. I know that I characterize Georgia and North Carolina as tilt Abrams states, but you could just see North Carolina and Georgia going to Mike Pence, but I just think that she's more likely to win those states. So now I'm going to go to Arizona, where Democrats have done really well there in the past. It's been trending towards the Republicans, the Democrats, for many years, and it might flip in 2020, but it certainly will flip at least in 2024. Maybe then the Republicans take it back, but 2024 will be a year for Democrats to take many of these states. I don't think that she'll win because she has a good Latino appeal. It's just going to be because Latinos and Hispanics will just vote for her. Maybe not as much as somebody like Julian Castro would be able to do. Maybe somebody like Catherine Cortez Mastro, or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I don't think that Stacey Abrams would be able to appeal to Latinos as much as other Democrats. But I do think that just because she's a Democrat, she'll be able to take the state in 2024. And because she isn't that good with Latino voters, I do think that Texas will narrowly go to Mike Pence. I do understand why people would think that it flips. It's kind of hard for me to see Texas flipping in 2024, but it could possibly happen. You could see Stacey Abrams doing well with suburban voters all around the state and around many of the larger urban areas, but I don't think she'd be able to appeal to Latino voters in the same way that other candidates would be able to. And I do think that Florida would go to Stacey Abrams. I do think that party fatigue would kick in. I don't think that the Cuban American voters will come out by that much for. I don't think that many Cuban Americans will vote for Mike Pence. You could have many of them voting for, just not voting, or just voting for Stacey Abrams. I do think that I don't think she'll do that well with older voters, but Mike Pence won't win them by so much. So you're just gonna have party fatigue kick in places like Florida, and you're gonna see the state flipping for Stacey Abrams. So yeah, I think that Mike Pence is a pretty good candidate, but maybe he takes like Wisconsin and Minnesota, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, but that's not enough. And then Abrams could take Texas, and then that would be horrible for the Republicans. But yeah, thanks for watching, and this is my final electoral map. You have Abrams with 348 and Mike Pence with 190. And thank you so much, and bye.